Hi there, and welcome to an exciting edition of Baking with Beth. Today we are going to be doing royal icing from scratch. It sounds very scary, but stick with me and I'll show you how it's done. Great, I feel like that one was good. Let's continue. And dang it. Shall we? For today's recipe, we are going to be using egg whites, powdered sugar, and corn syrup. The first thing that we need to do is separate our eggs and take the yolks out. We're not going to be using them at all. One trick for you when separating eggs is the colder the egg, the easier it is to separate. Just take eggs straight from your fridge and they'll be much easier to separate for you. So go ahead and do that, and we'll meet back here once you've separated 6 egg whites. Good job. Now that we have our egg whites, we are going to grab our paddle attachment and start whipping them with our standing mixer. Very important here, we do not want to use a whisk attachment because we don't want air bubbles in our frosting. That's the one thing that we do not want. A whisk attachment is created to aerate your mixture. That's why we use it for things like meringues. We want air to get in there, but a paddle attachment will remove the air if it's on slow enough. Another really important thing is that you do not want any egg yolks in your mixture. It really ruins your batch. So if you get egg yolks in your egg white mixture, just start over. Just save yourself the hassle, wash the bowl, and start over. It'll be a pain, truthfully, but it'll be the best recipe. Go ahead and mix this on medium speed for a few minutes, and then we're gonna add 4 teaspoons of corn syrup. Do you see how the egg whites are just a little frothy? These have only been whipping on medium speed for a few minutes. Actually, probably not even 1 minute. And this is the time when you want to add your corn syrup. And continue whipping on medium speed. Okay, now it's been about a minute. See how it's a little more frothy at this point? We are going to add the powdered sugar. So we'll add that very slowly until you get the consistency that you're looking for. Making sure that you have the right amount of powdered sugar is the most difficult step of royal icing. Now, it took me quite a while to perfect and to know when to stop putting powdered sugar in. But the beauty with this recipe is that if you put too much powdered sugar, you can always just add another egg white, and that will thin out your royal icing a little bit. So if you are all done at the end of it all and you're like, uh-oh, this is very, very thick, it's not doing what I want it to do, then just put it back in your bowl and add another egg white. And the same thing goes with powdered sugar. If it's too thin, add some more powdered sugar until you get the right consistency. Let's start adding your powdered sugar, and I'll show you close up of the different stages and the different things that you're looking for. Another important thing, you want to add your powdered sugar in small amounts, but more importantly, you want to add it on low speed so your powdered sugar doesn't go flying everywhere. Don't make that mistake. Don't be that person in the kitchen. As you can see, it's coming along nicely. It's not what we want quite yet, but it's starting to form some sort of an icing. So keep going. As you can see, we are starting to see ripples from the paddle attachment. But when we stopped the paddle attachment, did you see how quickly the icing went down and smoothed out? We want it to be a good balance between being thin enough to smooth out and thick enough to keep that rigid ripple. So it's just a fine balance between the two. Let's keep adding powdered sugar. Okay, so what we're looking for is how it settles at the end. See, it settled very quickly, so we're still not quite ready yet. Okay, let's see how it settles. Okay, do you see how it's slowing down? That's good. Okay, we're almost there. We are so close. I'm just gonna add the last of the powdered sugar, hopefully, and we'll be finished with our royal icing. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. It's pretty good. If you notice, that took about 10 seconds to settle nicely. That's what we want. We want our royal icing to settle within 10 seconds. And I think this is the perfect consistency. So let's use it. Our next step is going to be putting our royal icing into our piping bag. Grab your piping bag and you want to cuff it over your hand and form a C with your hand and cuff that over so you don't get royal icing on the top of your bag. Just place that in your hand like an ice cream cone and start spooning your icing into your bag. You may want to stir it up a little bit just to get out any clumps that you may have. But once you're done, go ahead and fold the cuff back up and just get any excess icing, push it down a little bit. And gather this with your hand and give it a little twist. And there's your icing. Now we're just gonna cut the tip of this icing bag ever so slightly so we can have a nice small tip for piping our cookies. You can always cut a larger hole. Start off small. If you need to make it larger, go ahead. But I always tell people, you know, the smaller the better because you can always get a bigger cut later. Make sure it comes out. Woo! All right, let's pipe a cookie. What I like to do when setting up my cookies is I like to have a towel ready next to me just in case I need to put my piping bag down. The towel will catch any drippings. I also like to keep a toothpick ready just in case I need to pop any bubbles that may appear on our cookies. So let's start. We are going to grab our piping bag just like this in between our thumb and our index finger, and you're gonna pinch that so no icing comes out the end of the bag. We only want it to come out this end. First things first, we are going to go straight up and down. Let's just see if the hole that we have created is too small or too large. We'll take a look at that with our first cookie. First, you want to squeeze a little to release and pull up And with each change in direction, you want to bring the bag back down to the cookie. And you want to go pretty slow. See how there's a tip? And here's another tip. Go down. And there you go. You have done your border. That's our first step. Now, before you do anything else, we want to fill that in. So you can squeeze a little harder here. Not too much icing, because we don't want the icing to spill overboard. But we also want it to touch each part of the icing next to it. So if you see how it's starting to spread out, that's great. We want to encourage it a little bit. You can use your piping bag just to, encourage it into those areas, or you can go ahead and use your toothpick, whatever you prefer. This is, a pretty easy step here. Make sure everything is all covered. Then we are going to put our piping bag down, and you're going to gently grab the cookie on two sides that aren't really full of icing, and you're just going to tap it a few times, and this will release the bubbles that may have been trapped in your icing. There you go. And sometimes your finger might get the edge of the cookie. That's okay. Just smooth it out. And that is your cookie. Now set that aside and do the next one. And there you go. So there you have it. That's how you royal ice a cookie. A couple of tips for you. If you do have larger bubbles that pop up, you would just pop them with a toothpick, tap your cookie again just to get it smooth again. Another tip for you is that royal icing, it starts to harden as soon as it touches air. You can see right here, I have my bowl of royal icing that I had left over. And what I simply did was I got a kitchen towel, wet, I wrung it out, and I draped it over the edge of the bowl. This will keep your royal icing as long as possible, really. Go ahead and do that. This isn't the type of thing where you can make it and then use it in a couple of days. You have to use it pretty quickly. Let your cookies sit until they harden completely. I would say let them sit overnight, and then you can go ahead and decorate them with whatever way you want with your markers. If you do have edible paint, you can use that. But let them sit for a good enough time and be very careful with them when you're transporting them. We're all done with our royal icing cookies, and I hope that you have a great vacation, a great summer, and a great time baking with your loved ones in the kitchen. See you next time. Do you want to see a magic trick? Look at this cookie. And I'm a nerd.